So I've always been pretty interested in the Dyson bladeless design fans, particularly in terms of if there is a measurable difference in the way the air feels compared to a cheap fan. So actually last year I bought the AM06, which is just a white normal bladeless fan, and the airflow is really smooth and really powerful for its noise, which is obviously my main kind of concern in a home office environment. I want something super quiet. And in the back of my mind I was kind of interested in having the purifying one, but the cost of those is really staggering, and then they're even bulkier as well, and I think the normal AM06 is already pretty bulky. In fact, it's too bulky really for a desk setup like this. So when I was using it, I had it at the other side of the room, and the airflow is definitely more than enough to give you a nice breeze. So even on level 1, the AM06 is actually still pretty serious airflow, especially if it is a little bit closer, and it's not silent either, you know, it could be quieter. So I've kind of always thought perhaps actually if they just lowered that minimum number, then maybe there's actually a solution in the AM06. Anyway, that hasn't happened, but they have released this. Now this is really interesting. So when this is on 1, it's actually almost a no breeze at all, but when it's this close to you, it actually is perfect for when you're working on a computer. And the really amazing thing is the angle you get from this lets you kind of provide a very, very focused beam, and you can actually set it up so that it just gets like, you know, this kind of area, which means you don't get the air in your eyes, but you do sort of get that nice moving area around you, and obviously you're breathing in the purified air. So that was what was my main appeal with this, and it's actually lived up to that promise really, really nicely. So with the normal non-purifying fans, you have to kind of part with a load of money, and you're only going to use it in the summer. Whereas the purifying ones, obviously you can kind of justify as a purchase having a benefit all year round. So in the winter it still purifies the air in here, and in the summer, you know, you get purification and the cooling effect of the fan. So this fan's actually got an amazing secret feature which I'm going to tell you about at the end. But before we do that, we're going to look at some tests that I've done to measure the sound levels that this fan makes at all its different power settings, compare those with a really cheapo fan and the normal AM06 fan, which is the non-purifying desk fan. So what I've done with the test is use the microphone I'm talking to you on now, using the same level I've got it set to for my voice now. So when you hear the fans, you'll have that sort of point of reference. And of course, you'll hear the Cheapo Fan, which you probably have an understanding of what they're like in real life as well. And the microphone's actually a similar kind of distance to the fans as it is from my face now. So let's get stuck in. What I'm going to do is actually go through all the different levels, and I'll show that on screen. So hopefully what I've done is actually included enough of a comparison with the normal fan and the AM06 fan in case you're wanting to upgrade like I did from that to this one. And you can compare them all. And I've included some shots of what a piece of paper on a piece of string does in the airflow. So that's got a nice way of visualizing the smoothness of the air, but also the power. So before we go on, I just wanted to say a little bit about this channel. It's obviously very new, I have very few subscribers, so I would love that number to grow. So the idea with the channel is to create videos on interesting design ideas and technology and look at how they can improve your productivity and sort of happiness and well-being in your work and family life. Hopefully these videos are of use and you feel it's worthwhile hitting that big red button. Go for it, and let's get stuck into the rest of the video. So this obviously is a purifying fan, and as part of that it's actually got the filter inside, and mine has just needed to be replaced for the first time. So it actually, what it does when it runs out, it tracks its use and tells you when it needs to be replaced, and it gives you a really bright red warning thing on the screen, which you can't ignore. You can actually reset that even if you don't change it, but when I took it out I couldn't believe the difference in the old and the new, so I think its time estimation of when it's time to replace is definitely pretty accurate. The old one was really dirty, the new one was crystal clear, so yeah, it's nice to have a new one in there, and I think I'll stick with its recommended interval on that. Changing the filter is really easy. You just lift this top piece off, take the old filter out and drop in the new one. They're not cheap. This is, this is the thing with this. It's like £60 in the UK, which is a huge amount of money for a sort of, piece of paper in a coil. But, that's obviously the game they're playing with these things. So Dyson have got an instruction video on their website about how to reset the warning about changing the filter, which you can do after you put the new one in. So let's take a look at the remote, which is actually really powerful. It's got tons of features on here, which you can't do without the remote. It's an infrared remote, which means you can actually use my little solution with the Raspberry Pi and an infrared blaster to set it up so that you can control it with your smart home system, Siri, HomeKit, and I've got another video on the process of actually setting that up. So that's why I kind of wanted one of these fans with the infrared remotes. It does just mean you can kind of, get a bit geeky and connect it up to other systems that simulate this remote. So we're just going to look at the basic controls of this. So obviously you've got on and off and the power setting, and you can push the I button and that shows you the status of the filter. Gives you a nice little animated sequence and sort of suggests how to take it out and change it as well, which is nice. And then you can enable or disable the oscillation, which is a nice feature, and the sleep timer. So you can actually use these on your bedside table, and the angle that you can adjust this to, it actually is a really nice downward angle, so it is perfect for a bedside table. And that secret feature I told you about is also especially useful in that environment. And the sleep timer lets you obviously set it up so that it's not on all night, just gives you a bit of airflow as you're going to sleep. So obviously I use this in the home office here, but in an ideal world I'd have another one in the bedroom, because that super quiet mode is just perfect for that sort of environment. So I've always kind of thought the interesting thing about Dyson products, after I got the V10 and the AM06 and now this, the build quality kind of takes you by surprise. It doesn't feel like good build quality. It's kind of, there's a lot of tolerance and a lot of play in all of the parts. And in the vacuum, that's actually, where the wand goes into the body, it's similar kind of effect there. It's wobbly, and the first time you try it out in the shop, you think, whoa, this kind of money, and it's got all this play. And of course, you think about it, it's obviously deliberate. The more tolerance you get in something like that, the less likely it is to crack and snap. And it's obviously easier to get in and out as long as that seal is there. Same with this kind of system. There's no need for it to feel solid. It's not designed to do that. It's designed to be a fan. So I'm actually quite interested in the way they approach their build quality. Now, with that all said, I did actually have to swap this 3 times because the motor was making a strange noise, and it still does it actually even on this model every now and again. So there's definitely a kind of quality control issue there, and that variance in the noise it makes. I haven't heard it for months now though, so it's definitely not all the time, and this unit does seem to be okay. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you've got one of these, or if you're thinking about these, or if you have any other questions about using one of these in a desk environment, or to replace a normal fan. It's really quite interesting how they all differ in terms of their airflow characteristics. This one is still definitely pretty smooth. It's not quite as smooth as the AM06, and it's certainly not as powerful for the same noise as the AM06, but of course it does have the purification, so you kind of have to weigh it all up. I think if it was really hot a lot of the time where you live, you might want to think the AM06, and if you wanted the purification, then get the purified version of that. But if you mostly in, like an English climate here, it's hot in the summer, but most of the year round it's not too bad. The low airflow and the purification is kind of the main appeal with this one, so I think it's the better one for the job here. So onto that secret feature. So it's got a screen on the front which is really bright and colourful, and actually provides amazing feedback when you're using it. It feels like a really high-tech product because of that. But if it was to stay that bright, say when you wanted to use it in your bedroom on the bedside table, it would feel way too bright. It would, you'd see it. So what it does is actually adjust its brightness based on the ambient room brightness, and if it's really dark, it actually goes off altogether. So I think, really brilliant, hats off to them for including that, because obviously, it needs another sensor, and it's quite an advanced feature to build in, but definitely worth it, and very, very nice attention to detail. Kind of goes a little way towards justifying the really high cost. So hopefully in these kind of comparison videos you can see the noise is quite different to the AM06. In fact, in the videos here it tends to pick up a sort of bassier tone, which I think may even be sort of reverberation from the desk surface, but in reality it doesn't. You don't really perceive that, but you do, you know, it does sound like a bassier sound, which is almost less irritating than the higher pitched noise that the AM06 makes. But the main difference really is just the amount of air that it pushes towards you. So the big amplifier design on the AM06 really shifts a lot of air very, very smoothly and rapidly towards you, so it has huge cooling power in that respect. Whereas this one, to get that kind of airflow, you've got to turn it right up, and then it really gets noisy. But of course that's not really how you use this. The use difference, you know, sort of gives this an advantage in that it's designed to be much closer to you. That works really nicely when you have this focused airflow, and of course you can adjust the angle of that airflow as well, and you can have it on the low power settings because it's closer. So it's quite hard to work out which one suits you, and I still sort of haven't really decided. I think I'm sticking with this in the office, but I do like to use the AM06 in bigger rooms, especially in the summer. So please subscribe and hit that like button, even if you don't normally do that when you watch YouTube videos. It does really help, and it's going to be quite exciting seeing this channel grow. So I hope that's been of use, and I'll see you in the next one.